Welcome to the War Dove podcast. I'm here with my friend Chris. I cannot pronounce his last name to save my life. And he is an entrepreneur and sobriety champion extraordinaire. And he's out there in the great state of Pennsylvania, really living it up. I've driven through there a few times. You hear that bluegrass on the station. And man, it is some scary country, but my fiance is from there. So full disclosure, I married a Pennsylvanian. So, Chris, welcome to the program.
Well, hey man, thanks for having me. And I guess I should have asked where you're from based on that hat, but
It's pretty obvious, huh? Yep, I'm from Bill's country. Nobody leave any tables around me. I will jump right through them. That's one of the Bills Mafia's signature moves, just right through the tables. So, you know, I'm out here just sporting my Josh Allen today because I felt like looking fresh. So, here we are. I got another recording after this, so I got to change and make it look like I'm recording it on a different day. So that's going to be fun. So I might change
understood.
my hat too, you know.
Well, listen, I mean, so you're up, what town are you in? Up near
Uh,
Buffalo?
I was near Buffalo. Now I'm out in Seattle. So I'm out in enemy territory in Seahawks countries.
Clearly. Well, I guess, since we're allowed to talk about recovery and stuff, I might as well kick this off if you don't mind. Before you ask any questions, I want to tell you my Buffalo story real quick,
Sure.
just because you're wearing the hat, you know? There was in between my first and second stint in jail. I was, here in Pennsylvania. I was living in Allentown, Pennsylvania, which is not much of a Tucky at all. It's a big old city. But I was on parole from my first stint in jail from, burglarizing houses and blah, 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 blah. And, my girlfriend and I at the time, we decided to run away because parole was looking for me. And being the genius that I am, we headed down south to North Carolina. And within 10 days, I ended up getting arrested in Buffalo, New York. And so I always love to tell this story when I was, you know, locked up in Buffalo, real cold October, just uncomfortable. I was already starting to detox from heroin. And, that's an uncomfortable situation in and of itself. And so I get into the intake, and there's like six or seven old dudes, and every single one of those guys was wearing a sweatshirt that said nine.
Sorry, you were muted there for a minute. I don't know why.
I don't know what just happened there.
That's okay.
Uh,
Anyway, so they're all wearing shirts.
every single one of these guys is wearing a 1991 AFC Champions Buffalo Bills sweatshirt. I'm talking like I'm in this lockup with six other guys, and every single one of them has a Buffalo Bills 1991 AFC Champions sweatshirt. And it led me to believe that that was like the last thing that the people of Buffalo had to hold on to besides the Sabres. And now, like, I've been telling that story since 2007, and it still works even in 2024.
Yeah, yeah, it's sad but true. Buffalo always seems to choke on the last few games, and it's really disappointing. It's really hard to be sober and be a Buffalo fan because you just want to pound shots. Well,
Oh, man.
I mean,
Well,
it's really hard, man. I mean, I had to call my sponsor, like the Bills are losing. What do I do? It was bad, man. So, um,
if it makes you feel any better, I'm an Eagles fan. And, other than a couple times here and there, we've been nothing but disappointed. So,
yeah, it's rough, when your team isn't, you know, when your team doesn't have Tom Brady, it's pretty annoying. Or apparently Patrick Mahomes now. So, I don't know.
fair. That
It's
is fair.
it's just insane. So, I'm glad we got to talk some football. I do love my Buffalo. I can't wait for the season to start back up again. And I'm really rooting for him this year. I just know this year is going to be our year, man. I just know it. So,
Yeah.
So you're an entrepreneur in the sober space. So you're a recovering addict yourself who's been in trouble because of that, and now you're turning other people's lives around. I think that's incredible. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, man. So, in 2007, my sobriety date, recovery date, whatever you want to call it, is August 27th, 2007. And, in 2007, a judge from Allentown shipped me down here to Lancaster, where I live now. And, he shipped me to treatment first. And at that treatment center, they said, Chris, you got to go to a halfway house. And, I didn't really feel like doing that. So, my PO told me I felt like doing that. And I suddenly, went to this halfway house in Lancaster. And I got to tell you, like, when I was here, I didn't even feel like I deserved recovery. I feel like, after having been in and out of jail for the last, 3 years of my life, I really got to this point where I didn't even feel like I deserved peace or happiness. I was just kind of like this animal in a cage and like getting ready to relapse and go back to jail again. And it was just that vicious cycle that I was on. And when I got here, thankfully I got thrown into this group of young, excited people in recovery. I mean, these guys made recovery cool, and I was like doomed at 21 years old. I was like, oh man, I'm never going to be able to drink again. I'm never going to be able to do this. I'm never going to be able to do that. Life's going to be miserable. Life's going to be boring because recovery is boring. It looks boring. It looks like old people talking about their lawnmowers. And like, it doesn't sound exciting to me. And thankfully, I got thrown into this group, this awesome group of guys who were just excited about being in recovery. And they were all in their early 20s like I was. And they were happy. I was not happy. They were like, thrilled to be going to these meetings and these different things. And I was just furious that I had to. And, after a while, I followed these guys through a process that it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. And, they were telling me this was like a program of recovery. And I was like, whatever, I'm just doing it because like the PO told me I kind of had to be there. And uh, lo and behold, I did this stuff these guys were doing and I got happy too. And after a little while, I got a job waiting tables like I always had. And after a couple of years of that, I lost that job and I called down to the rehab that I had been through. And they hired me like over the phone on the spot. And I started working in the rehab for $9 an hour. I was driving 70 miles out of my way. And it was just, not fiscally a great move, but what an incredible experience it was to be on the ground floor working with people in that early stage of their recovery game. And, I was only 2 or 3 years sober at that point myself. And after a while, I left that job, and all of my friends at the halfway house were about to be kind of homeless at the same time. So I took what little money I had saved up and I rented a house downtown and developed a guideline sheet for them, like, simple little things, sort of like, wake up, make your bed, call your sponsor, go to a meeting, do simple things, blah, 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 blah. Eventually, so many people wanted to stay at that house that we had to go rent another one. And then so many people wanted to stay at that one, we had to go get another one. And at some point, a wise mentor of mine said, listen, you got to stop renting these things. You have to buy these houses because it's just way smarter. Thankfully, that mentor got me into real estate. That mentor got me into really like actually being able to turn the thing that started as a just trying to help my friends into like an actual business. And I discovered through that process that I actually love business. I love creating things. I love uh, really everything to do with it, especially when you can tie it in and improve a ton of other people's lives during that process. So that just sort of stumbled into entrepreneurship.
Wow, wow. So that sobriety journey led you to take a job out of your way that probably wasn't even fiscally, feasible. And it got you into this whole business where, you know, that's why I always say, folks, like you don't know what this job that you think is out of your way, that's not worth your time, that pays $9 an hour is going to lead you to. Like that's incredible.
It really is kind of interesting. And I talk about it fairly often with people in recovery generally. If you'd asked me in 2008 what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, I would have told you it'd be a waiter. I would have told you like I'm happy doing this. I love this. It's great. If you told me or asked me in 2010, what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, I probably would have told you I would have been a counselor because I wanted to go to school and become a drug and alcohol counselor. If you asked me in 2012 what I wanted to do, the answer would be a different one every single year. And none of them would have been where I ended up. So it really led me to believe that I don't have the answers. And I go with the universe. The universe has those answers.
Hmm.
Uh, Over and over and over, time and time again, it shows me.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, my theory's always been that humanity has a lot of ideas and theories and hypotheses about what's going on, but nobody in society actually knows what's going on. Nobody really knows the big picture, and we're all just kind of making it up. Can I say that closer into the mic? We're all just making it up as we go along. I mean, I know I do. I know that I make plans. I think this is going to work out, and then life happens, or, we all think we know all the answers. Like almost every human being, really, when you get right down to it, we think, oh, yeah, I've got all the answers. I know what's going on here, but we really have no idea, do we?
Not even a little bit. And for that's not to say that making plans is a bad thing. I think in a lot of areas, especially business, you have to do some planning if you're going to survive. But truly, to nail myself to a plan is a dangerous thing because I never know which way the universe is going to toss me. And then, literally, even 17 years into this recovery thing, it's still tossing me left and right, sideways, up and down, whether I like it or not. And that's the cool part of life is if you go with the flow and just be present for it and aware of it, things are beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Going with the flow is something that I learned recently after working as a hospital chaplain. Just tell you a little anecdote about my life. Well, I'm still in the discernment process. I'm just doing it on my own instead of with an organized church because I want to start my own church. Because I found a lot of the hierarchical structures are very, very oppressive to what I actually want to accomplish, which is going to those most in need, those who are homeless, those who have addiction issues, those veterans that need help, those families that need help, and say, bro, we need to start an entire section of our church that's an apartment building just for people that need it and rotate them into a stable lifestyle where we give them training how to actually live within the rules of our society. Because so many folks, I feel like they get out there and they don't know anymore. They get so into that lifestyle that they forget how to live in an apartment. It's weirder for them to be inside than it is for them to be outside. And there's homeless camps all around my area. I interact with these folks on a daily basis. I know them. They have addiction issues and mental health issues, but that doesn't make them subhuman. They are wonderful people with hopes and dreams. And some of them do make bad mistakes in life. But as far as I'm concerned, as long as you're not really seriously harming someone else, and you have to really harm someone else for me to be mad at you, there's some hope for some sort of redemption. There's some hope for some change, I feel like. And I want to be a part of that process in my own humble way. I don't know how it's going to work out, but that's what I want to do you know. And your story is giving me inspiration because you came from prison and heroin to running several companies that are actually helping folks get sober, get off the streets. I think it's incredible. It's an incredible story, and I kind of want to have you as a reoccurring guest just to pump up my, confidence in the fact that if you can do it, maybe I can do it too, you
I could
know?
literally guarantee you if I can do it, you can do it because truly it's just a matter of doing it. And most people get stuck in the thinking process and then the overthinking process and then the overthinking process while you're still thinking about the first overthinking process and you never end up taking action. And that's where it really comes down to. I think my business career has been so tremendous just because I've done it. I've stepped out on a ledge over and over and over.
Right. You
And
went.
yeah, and it's there are certainly difficult times. There are certainly rough moments. There are certainly beautiful moments. There's joyous moments and all these different things. But like, you never get anywhere if you don't start, and you never get anywhere if you don't do. And a lot of that stuff that prevents people from starting and from doing are the fear of what others think, the fear of what people say, the fear of failure, the fear of what other people think about failure. There's so many different reasons that you just kind of burn your own brain out and never start doing things. So take your piece of this, step out and, just get out into those camps and meet people, build relationships, start talking, because there are a lot of people who prefer to live outside. I've met several myself in my work with, unhoused outreach, and, that's awesome for them.
Yeah.
I love it. But
No, if that's what they like.
societally, it's not okay.
Yeah.
And, that's where it causes all those problems that we see. And, yeah, so I love that about you and about your heart and about the work you want to do. So I'm a big fan, and I will absolutely join you on this recurring anytime I can. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would love to have you as a recurring guest because you're so positive, you're making such a great impact in the world, and I need more people like that in my life, brother. I do, because, you know, I'm blessed with so many good people. I'm blessed with so many good things. I cannot believe my blessings, but when I sit right down and do it, like I guess it's from my own experience, but I know there's other people out there that have a similar issue, so I'm going to ask, like, you know, I was looking at the master's program yesterday at Liberty University. They have a 2-year MDiv. It's a year shorter and about um, let's say $100,000 cheaper than many of the other options. 20,000 than the second choice, right? And I'm thinking, well, I can't do that. And even if I do that, my project's going to fail immediately. I'm 100% disabled through the VA. I'm worthless. I'm no good. And I just go into this spiral of fuck it. You know what I mean? And I know that other people get in that spiral of fuck it. You know, I know it's a problem. So, what's your take on, recovering addicts? And I guess I would call it the spiral of fuck up, the spiral of fuck it. But I think it might be a common theme in people's lives, is kind of what I'm saying. This,
I mean,
eh,
yeah, yeah, and that's what I was just talking about, that kind of brain spiral of doom, and it's not even real. It's all manufactured in my head. And at the end of the day, when I stop listening to what my brain is telling me, I realize, typically I'll run that by one or two trusted people just to make sure that I'm not off the rails and, I'm not completely insane, because there are definitely moments where my brain will take off and I'll think, oh man, this is all it's all a massive failure. I suck. I'm terrible at this. I'm the worst. It's a real thing, man. I'm pretty sure most everybody in recovery, or most of the people that I associate with and most of the people I've spoken to over the years, have this kind of internal dialogue. And unfortunately, my natural internal dialogue is negative. And it will always tell me the worst parts about myself and the worst things about me. And thankfully, if you have the right support group around you, like I thankfully do, they can sort that madness out and let me know what's real and what's delusion. And then I can make decisions based on what's real and what's delusion, instead of trusting my brain, which is delusional,
hmm,
and following that. So, strong support group. Definitely check with people you trust to make sure you're on the right track, and keep it moving.
right, right. Yeah, and I think people have to do that both in recovery and in their lives because you'll get in that spiral like, you know what? I want to use, I want to use, I want to use. And, maybe it won't be so bad this time. Maybe I can control it this time. Maybe I'm all set. But we know that's not the case because of the nature of our disease. You know, we know that's not the case. But we do tell ourselves that there's a lot of delusional thinking in the mind of an addict, no matter what you're addicted to. I mean, you could be addicted to gambling or shopping and have the same, oh, I'll just go and buy one pair of shoes today. You know, I'll just go and buy one Buffalo Bills hat. No, you're gonna buy all the Buffalo Bills hats, bro. You're gonna buy them all. And you're gonna go, how did I spend $800 in 4 days? How did that happen? Oh, right. I bought that Seattle Kraken jersey. I bought that Bills hat. So I feel like the addictive brain bleeds over into other parts of our lives too. I mean,
Absolutely, absolutely. Anything that triggers those receptors, that makes you feel good. Those are the things that you're going to chase and you're going to target. And If you're not in a particularly strong spiritual spot, you could target them to excess. And that is just from personal experience. I can say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely, definitely me too. Um, so what's your favorite project of all the projects you have, all the companies that you got going on? What's your favorite? What's the one that really gets you going?
See, I'll offend a lot of people if I pick a favorite
Oh no.
because there's like a
Scratching that
favorite.
question, folks.
No, there's a favorite element to so many different things. Like everything I do, there's like a piece of it that I love. So yesterday we were filming season 2 of our docu series called Repurposed, which is an awesome like mini docu series about people who used to live a life without purpose, who found new purpose, and were essentially repurposed. And so we had our first season that came out on Amazon Prime Video late last year, and we just recently released it to YouTube. So now it's totally free to watch. Um, so you can check that out on the Baba Conda Productions YouTube. And yeah, um, really cool stuff. It was just four episodes, wildly different recovery stories, completely different. And that was one of my favorite parts of filming that series was it was four people's path to purpose, and they were so broad and so varied. We were like, man, we got to do this again. So yesterday we sat down and for the entire day filmed season 2, and we had people coming to us and my God, what incredible, impactful, inspiring stories that'll all be released to that same YouTube channel. So hopefully you can link up to it and check those out. So like that gets me fired up. But then we talk about Blueprints for Addiction Recovery, the treatment center that I founded with my friends. Recently, I stepped back from operations 3 or 4 months ago to focus on family and some other things. And but like Blueprints gets me fired up because within Blueprints, you've got hundreds of people pushing towards recovery. Then you have community programs where we partner with law enforcement to keep people out of jail and get them access to treatment, where we partner with magisterial district judges, where we partner with the mental health coalitions in the county, with the homeless coalitions. I sit on a couple boards. We have a sports card shop, which is why I get super hype about sports. Like there's just so many different awesome things happening down here, and there's so many people who are able to realize and live their dreams. And I just can't pick like one favorite thing. My favorite thing is life.
Wow. Favorite thing is life. Do you
Yeah.
ever, you know, and don't take this the wrong way, but do you ever feel like you're overdoing it?
Yes. Oh yeah. Absolutely. I mean, for years and years and years, everybody would be like, "Man, you like take a vacation, do this, do that," and like I've legitimately built a life that I don't need a vacation from. I have not at one time in the last 10 years thought to myself, "I need to get away from this."
Hmm.
Like this is I need to go sit on a beach and I don't know, drink a non-alcoholic margarita or something. I just That's not me. I really love my community. I love the people around, and I just I don't know. But
Well,
yes, I have absolutely felt like I've been overdoing it since 2010, and still haven't really slowed down too much yet. Other than the recent last couple of months, I've slowed down from some things, but then picked up more things in their place.
yeah. You know, there's a question that I ask all my guests, and it doesn't matter what their expertise is. It doesn't matter if they're ex-military, if they're life coaches, if they're in recovery and homeless services like you, but it's a standard question. It's part of the theme of the podcast, and that is world peace. Um, what do you think our species, our united humanity, just regular people walking around, all however many billion of us there are now, probably 8, 9 billion now. It's got to be a lot. Um,
Yeah.
what can our species do collectively, together to bring an end to systems of organized warfare and make this world a better place? I mean, aren't we just going around the sun on a rock? Aren't we just yeast in a jar that's overflowing? I mean, to me, it's kind of terrifying that we spend so much time and money killing each other. And that comes from a guy who's been to Iraq. I don't understand it. It seems like that money could be better spent somewhere else, or at least the resources. If we want to get rid of money altogether, I'm fine with that. But at least the resources, man. It seems like there's a misallocation going on, you know?
Dude, I love that. That's a great question. And like, as much as I love getting political, uh, I don't love how divisive politics has become. And obviously, I'm not in favor of killing anything ever. I'm rather nonviolent. I've been a libertarian since I was like 16 years old, so I definitely don't really believe in throwing money at killing other people in any way, shape, or form. I don't really believe in a whole lot of that stuff. So what I would say is on the local level, on the smaller scale that we have, just listening to other people of opposing viewpoints and hearing them, maybe internalizing their viewpoints and seeing things from their perspective. And then, I don't know, being civil throughout the process. Maybe you can make a new friend instead of an enemy. And then that's one less piece of hate that exists in the world.
Mm.
And so if you think of every single person who listens to this episode, if we can step out of the box and go to somebody that we dislike or disagree with and take a moment to actually listen to them and see if we can understand where they're coming from, maybe that crushes out another little piece of hate. And if a couple hundred people hear this, that's a couple hundred less pieces of hate. And who's to say that doesn't balloon into a couple thousand less or tens of thousands less? And then we have more love. So that's where I'm at. And I'm never in favor of killing or harming or anybody, really, for any reason.
Yeah, I became a pretty staunch libertarian after Iraq just because of the things I saw, the things that I participated in, and I'm like, whoa, man, uh, this is crazy. I mean, on one hand, I'm proud. On the other hand, maybe not so much. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. I think it is for a lot of people. But that's originally why I started the podcast. It turns out that peace is not a very popular topic, which is surprising. But it turns out that much like philosophy, peace bakes no bread. So I had to change the formatting and the focus of the podcast to throw out a hook and say, I wonder who I can get. You know, I just need to build the channel. Who can I get? And I've been blessed with a fine guest like you. Um, and I've been blessed with a guy who's been on Anderson Cooper 360. Um, feel free to check out that episode with Stephen Marks. I've been blessed with someone who's been on Coast to Coast AM, a psychic. It's amazing what you get when you lower your expectations and just say, you know what? I'm not going to expect anything, but let's throw a net out and see what happens. And just like Jesus said, I'll make you fishers of men, you know? Just throw your net out. And St. Peter goes, I don't know, Lord, we haven't caught anything all day. He's like, Peter, just lower the net down, you know? Just put the net in the water, Peter. And it came up and it was so abundant, the nets were breaking. And that's how I feel that God's blessed my life with this show, with all the wonderful people I've met, with the guests. It's just, I feel like I'm building a network of people that are not just great for forwarding a podcast or forwarding a radio show, but they're great for my life because they're positive influences. And I know that there's something there with you. I know that you have a good heart, that you're a positive guy, and I'm impressed with the changes you made not only in your life, but in the lives of so many others.
And well, I appreciate that, man. And you're not wrong. It's just every time you reach out or every time you step out on a ledge, even if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense right away, you never know what it can turn into. And I can't even tell you the number of times over the last 17 years I've shown up for something that I didn't want to show up for, and it built a lifelong friendship. Or I showed up for something I really didn't want to do, and it, turned into somebody else being inspired into lifelong recovery, and it's just like every single time you show up and every single time you do, something is produced.
Yeah. You
You
gotta
know,
you gotta show up and you gotta work it because it works if you work it, right? And that
that, yeah.
And I think that applies to so much in life. You got to work. It works if you work it, but you got to work it, man. I need to see standing around in the room all, you got to work if you work it. You got to work it.
Well, you don't have to get too, like cultish or anything like that, but life and recovery are really the same. Your attitude kind of determines the outcome.
Right.
If you go into something, I mean, I even came into recovery with a terrible attitude because I just had a terrible attitude everywhere.
Mm.
But once things start to happen, once you start to open up to them, and once at least I started to open up to everything, my life took off. And, it just kind of set in course this train of circumstances where I couldn't have put it all together on my best day, in my best dream. I couldn't. And that's why, going with the flow and following the universe is always going to make way more sense than any of my plans to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It really amazes me because I have noticed that before in my life. Like when I was in New York, I was trying to finish college, but I couldn't get through the mathematics part of college. I'm just not good at math, right? So anyway, I left college, I dropped, and I moved out to Olympia, Washington. And there's this school here called the Evergreen State College, and they don't have any set classes you have to take. It's just a liberal arts school. You pick your classes. You don't get any grades. You evaluate your professors evaluate you. It's a written evaluation, just like a job. Like this is how you did, this is why I'm giving you 16 credits or 8 credits or no credit for this class, whatever it is. And if I hadn't driven 3,000 miles to a place I had never been, I wouldn't have a bachelor's degree. I wouldn't be looking at a master's program. It just wouldn't be possible because I had to get out of that paradigm where it's like, yo, let's keep banging your head against the wall doing something that you're not going to get, you're not going to get calculus, bro. It's not going to happen. It just literally will not happen. You can beat your head all you want. And I feel like a lot of people do that. They beat their heads against the wall doing something that's not working. When if you take the leap into something completely unknown and completely just off your radar, it might make something beautiful. And I feel like maybe that's what you've done, but that's just kind of the sense I'm getting.
You're not wrong about that. And it kind of made me think of like watching my son. He's not even 2 years old yet. And he gets real frustrated when he's trying to jam the like square uh, toy into the circle hole or like the star. He just gets so frustrated that it doesn't go in.
Get it?
And I feel like society has created these holes for us to fit in.
Mm.
And a lot of us don't fit in any of those holes.
Hmm.
But society has made it appear as though we have to fit into those holes. So we frustratingly bang ourselves into these stupid holes that we don't fit into
Right.
until we realize that maybe we just don't have to fit into any of those holes and we can go create our own.
Yeah.
And as
And
soon as you create your own, boom, things start to take off. You fit in comfortably and you're no longer fighting or opposing the flow of life.
yeah. And you know what's sad? I think some people, when they're going into that wrong shape hole, they shave off pieces of themselves with a sharp object almost to fit
Yep.
into that hole. They change their shape to fit the shape of the hole. I see it in people who are just dead in their jobs. They're miserable, but they stay and they're just, it's just mindless work. It's not work that gets them up in the morning and gets them going. It's just mindless work. And I feel like I see so many people who just bang themselves into that wrong shaped hole in life. And it just kind of makes me sad. It makes me sad that that's the kind of world we've created when we could have created a different world. We could have had a different society, but we decided, nah, let's
But
not.
there's nothing we can do to change that entirety of society. That's been around for, well beyond us. But what we can do is change our worlds and change the worlds of those around us.
Right.
And that's the focus, because we could lament any number of 10 billion things that are going on right now across the world. We did a podcast the other week with a guy named Guy, out in Israel. He's a wonderful, human. he's obviously embroiled in a whole lot of stuff going on around him. And, he's just in his lane, focused on what he can do to improve the stuff around him,
Yeah, guy's a
and
great friend of mine, actually.
yeah, see, so like,
He is guy's a great friend of mine.
you will never, ever, ever, ever change society as a whole. But what you can do is change what's around you, change what's in front of you, and add positivity to that stuff. And, I just don't like to focus too much on the negative things like taxes and, the IRS and those guys. I don't like to focus on those things because I can't change them.
Right.
But what I can change is the reaction to them. I can change negativity around me in some cases. And those are the things that I like to focus on.
Right. Right. Yeah, I feel you. I'm going to try to take that into myself and apply that out here. It's something I read in the Dalai Lama's book, actually, is that, peace and enlightenment really start by our actions in our local community, with our families, with our children, with our, neighbors, our town, and then it spreads. Just like we were talking about at the beginning, these little seeds grow and they spread, and they're little pollen spreads everywhere and just kindness expands exponentially. Just like the negative things can do the same thing. But if we're coming from a positive space and we try putting positivity out in the world, that's why, folks, if you're down there at the 7-Eleven and you see a guy sitting on the side begging for money, buy the man a piece of pizza, will you? Just buy him a cup of coffee, ask him about his day. Sometimes I like to go up to the homeless guys that are sitting there and I hand him the coffee and I say, "Hey man, you know, my name is Pastor Joe and you know, I'm ordained with the Universal Life Church, but it doesn't matter what church. I just wanted to give you this cup of coffee and let you know there's so much value in your eyes. I can see it." And oftentimes that cup of coffee and hearing that they have some sort of value means more to them than the money they were asking for because they don't think they have any value. They've they've given up on the idea of them ever having any value. And I feel like it's important to reach out for those people and try to pull them up, even in small ways, even if it's just 2 minutes on your way to work, even if it's just 30 seconds, doesn't matter. But it really makes a difference, I think, in their day, and it might motivate them to make a change. It might motivate them to stand up. It might. I'm not saying it will, but we may as well try because we're all on this, little ride together, folks. That's my real thing here. We're all in this together. And that wasn't really a question. I'm just rambling, but
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong about it. And even if they don't take advantage of the opportunity or the inspiration or anything like that, you've still given love. And I would always rather go to sleep having given as much love as possible versus the alternative.
yeah, yeah. There's definitely enough of the alternative going around. Let's spread some love. All right.
Yeah.
So, do you have any upcoming projects, anything exciting you want to tell us about before we wrap here? Anything big, anything awesome and exciting? Obviously, your Amazon Prime show was huge. You got that out of the way. But any cool projects coming up?
I mean, there's a ton of stuff coming up. The one company that is among my favorites, Three Legacies Wrestling, is a professional wrestling organization here in Lancaster. You should check that out on YouTube as well. That's Three Legacies Wrestling. Three is spelled out the long way. We have literally just constant, awesome shows that are tied to the community where we'll, partner with a nonprofit and do a food drive or do a clothing drive or something along those lines. So while that may not be huge nationally, it's exciting to me because we're, building coalitions and really helping people on a different level. Repurposed through Baba Kind of Productions, season 2 we talked about, but there's another thing called Night of Recovery that's out on Amazon Prime as well. If you look that up, Night of Recovery is a really, really, really awesome multi-speaker event, and they're each filmed live. They have pretty cool celebrity guests who really just bare their souls and share their experience in recovery. And those are awesome. I don't think we have any actual scheduled ones, but there are a ton kind of in the works across the country coming up, hopefully. So that could be big, but nothing to, nail down and report on that one.
Awesome.
But
Well,
yeah,
when those things, keep happening, we'd love to have you announce them here on the Ward of podcast. Um, I'd love to, get the inside scoop, so to speak, because like I said, I'm a burgeoning host. I'm just out here. I'm not even that great at editing, folks, to be honest with you. A lot of it's just my intro and the video dropped in, but my regular viewers know that, and they know the quality that they've come to expect
that's awesome.
from me.
I'm definitely happy to help. I'm no editor either, but happy to come talk anytime you want, man.
Yeah, it's really the editing is really interesting, especially in iMovie. But folks, that's all the time we got for today. I really appreciate you joining us, Chris. I really appreciate our listeners sticking with us. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, or as my favorite YouTube host says, smash that like and subscribe button to the Ward of podcast here. And we'll close with our regular motto, folks, as we always do. Remember, until next time, be humble, be kind, and until next time, peace.